They're taking your room. They deserve to be comfortable." When my daughter-in-law Emily said those words to me, I felt the air get sucked right out of my lungs. It wasn't just a room. It was my room. In my house, the house I built with the sweat of 40 years alongside my late husband David, the room where we slept together, where I cried when he passed, where I still keep his photograph on the nightstand. My name is Sarah. I am 64 years old, and this is the story of how a woman can lose her dignity little by little, until the day she decides to take it all back at once. It all started on a Thursday afternoon. I was in the kitchen preparing my weekly pot roast, just like I always do on Thursdays. My son Michael had left early for work. Emily came downstairs with that look I already knew so well, the look of someone who comes to demand, not to ask. "Mother-in-law, I need to talk to you." Not even Sarah. Just mother-in-law, as if it were a derogatory title. "What is it, dear?" I answered, drying my hands on my apron. "My parents are coming to live here," she just blurted out. "They can't afford their house anymore, and this house is big. There's plenty of space." My heart skipped a beat. To live here. Yes, here. After all, there are plenty of rooms, she said in that tone she used when she had already decided something without consulting me. I felt a knot in my stomach. This was my house. The house my husband and I paid for with sacrifice for 40 years. When Michael married Emily 3 years ago, I had just become a widow. I was devastated. Michael told me they would come live with me temporarily, so I wouldn't be alone, to help me through my grief. That was 3 years ago, and they never left. Emily, of course, they can come visit whenever they want, but they aren't coming to visit Sarah, she interrupted me with contempt. They are coming to stay. And they will be staying in the master suite, your room. It's the biggest one, the one with the private bath and the balcony. They deserve to be comfortable. You can move into the little storage room. The world stopped. The storage room, I repeated, unable to believe it. In my own house? Oh, please don't start with your usual drama, she huffed impatiently. What does it matter? It's just a room. Besides, you're old and alone now. What do you need all that space for? My parents are younger. They've worked their whole lives. They deserve to be comfortable in their final years. Old. She called me old. In my house. My hands were shaking. Emily, that room. I slept there for 40 years with your father-in-law. Everything So what? She cut me off coldly. Are you going to live clinging to the past your whole life like some bitter old woman? It's been 5 years since he died. Get over it already. Life moves on, Sarah. Get over it. As if a love of 4 decades is just something you get over. As if a lifetime of memories could be erased just to make her parents comfortable, in my own house. Besides, she continued, crossing her arms, it's not like you need that much space. You're alone. You don't have a husband anymore. My parents are still together. They need privacy. They need a decent room. Not that tiny room where a bed barely fits. Emily, this is my house, I said, feeling my voice tremble. I was the one who opened my doors to you and Michael when— Your house. She laughed mockingly. Oh, mother-in-law. Are you going to throw it in our faces now that we live here? That's such an ugly attitude. We're family. Or what? Are you going to charge us rent like we're strangers? How shameful. I didn't know you were so petty. I was speechless. She was twisting everything around, making me look like the bad guy. They'll be here on Sunday, she continued, looking at her nails indifferently. I already told them their room is waiting. So start packing up all your old junk. And don't make a scene in front of Michael. You know he hates problems. I don't want you turning him against me with your old lady complaints. She turned around and went upstairs, leaving me alone in the kitchen. The smell of the pot roast turned bitter in my throat. I sat down in the chair, my legs weak. My husband's photograph looked at me from the living room, his wise eyes, his calm smile. What do I do, my love? I asked him in silence. And then something inside me changed. A small but brilliant spark. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I was not going to let myself be humiliated in my own home. I was going to teach them that generosity has limits. that hospitality is not slavery, and that disrespect has a price. Sometimes we trust the wrong people too much. Have you ever felt like someone in your family crossed a line they shouldn't have? Tell me your story in the comments. I want to hear it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I just sat in the living room looking at the walls of my house. Our house. Every corner held a memory. The hardwood floor that my husband David and I installed with our own hands. The dining room window where we sat to drink coffee every morning. The garden where he planted the rose bushes that still bloom every spring. This house wasn't just bricks and mortar. It was our entire life. I met David when I was 23. He was an accountant at a textile company. I worked as a secretary. We got married 6 months later against everyone's advice. It's too fast, they said. You barely know each other. But we knew. When something is right, you know it from the first moment. Michael was born 2 years later, our only son. We wanted him so much. We raised him with love, but also with discipline and values. David always said, "A man must be respectful, hardworking, and honest. That's what makes a good man." And Michael was. For years, he was exactly that. I remember when he was 10 years old, he found a wallet in the park. Inside, there was $300, money we desperately needed at the time. But David took Michael to the police station to turn it in. "Easy money corrupts the soul," he told him. Michael grew up to be a good boy. He studied engineering, got a good job. He was respectful, loving. Every Sunday he came over for dinner even when he had his own apartment. He always brought flowers for me and sat with his father to talk about life. Then came the illness. The cancer appeared suddenly. David started feeling tired, losing weight. When we finally went to the doctor, it was too late. 6 months, the doctor told us. Maybe a year if he's lucky. We weren't lucky. David passed away one November morning 5 years ago. It was in our bedroom with my hand in his. His last words were, "Take care of our son, and take care of yourself too, my love." And my world collapsed. Michael was devastated. He cried like a little boy. He had lost his hero, his guide. For months we both walked through this house like ghosts. He came over every day after work. We would sit in silence, sharing the pain. It was a year later when he met Emily. Michael came over one afternoon with something different in his eyes. A light I hadn't seen since before his father's death. "Mom, I met someone," he told me with a shy smile. "Her name is Emily. She works in the marketing department." My heart was happy. My son deserved to be happy. He deserved to get out of that pit of sadness. "I want you to meet her. I think she's special." The first time Emily came to the house, she arrived with a perfect smile and a bouquet of white roses. "For you, Sarah." "Michael told me your husband used to grow them in the garden." I was moved to tears. It was such a beautiful, considerate gesture. She was pretty polite. She knew exactly what to say. She sat with me in the kitchen while I made coffee. She asked me about David, about our years together. She listened intently. Her eyes even filled with tears. "You were so lucky to find each other," she told me. "True love is so rare these days." Michael looked at her like she was an angel, and I wanted to believe she was. They started dating. Emily came to the house often. She helped in the kitchen, brought me desserts, laughed at my stories. Michael was radiant. He was back to being the happy son I knew. 8 months later, Michael came home with a ring in his hand. "Mom, I proposed." She said yes. I hugged him with all my soul. My son was going to be happy. He was going to have a family. They got married in a small but beautiful ceremony. I cried tears of joy. Emily looked gorgeous in her white dress. During the reception, she hugged me tightly. "Thank you for giving me such a wonderful son, Sarah. I promise to always take care of him." After the wedding, Michael came to talk to me. "Mom, I don't want you to be alone in this big house. Emily and I want to come live with you. Just for a little while we save up for our own house." I hesitated. I didn't want to be a burden, but the truth was the house felt empty and cold without David. The nights were long and lonely. "Are you sure?" I asked him. "You're newlyweds. You need your privacy." "I'm sure, Mom. You're my mother, and this will always be your house." I accepted. I thought it would be beautiful. A united family under one roof. The first few months were good. Emily cooked, we chatted, we watched movies together. Michael seemed happy. I felt less alone. But little by little, something started to change. Small comments, looks, sighs of impatience. "Sarah, why do you cook so early? The smell wakes me up." "Could you not water the plants in the morning? The noise bothers me." "You should put these photos away. They make the living room look outdated." At first I thought it was normal. We were learning to live together, but the comments became harsher, more frequent. And Michael started to change too. He stopped defending me. He stopped listening to me. When I tried to talk to him, he would sigh, tired. "Mom, don't exaggerate. Emily just wants the house to look nice." Slowly, I started to become invisible in my own home, until that Thursday, until Emily told me I had to go sleep in the storage room to give my bedroom to her parents. I got up from the living room and walked to my room. I turned on the light. There it was. The queen-sized bed, the antique wardrobe, the photograph of David on the nightstand. I took the portrait in my hands and looked him in the eyes. "Forgive me, my love," I whispered. "I let them disrespect me. I let them forget whose house this is. I let our son forget what you taught him." But in that moment, I knew what I had to do. David always said, "Kindness without limits is weakness, and weakness invites abuse." I had been too kind, too quiet. It was time to remind them who owned this house, and that my generosity had a limit. As I tell this, I wonder where you might be listening. Write the name of your city in the comments. I like knowing someone is out there sharing this moment with me. The day after Emily's insult, I woke up early, as always. But I didn't go down to the kitchen. I sat on my bed looking at the room they wanted to take from me, and I remembered. I remembered the exact moment when everything started to break, the moment I let slide, the moment I should have confronted. It was 2 weeks after they moved in. I had gone out early to the farmer's market. I wanted to buy fresh ingredients to make David's favorite pot roast. It was the recipe he loved, the one I cooked every Thursday since we were married. It was my way of keeping him close. When I returned loaded down with bags, I found Emily in the kitchen, but she wasn't cooking. She was throwing things in the trash. "Emily, what are you doing?" She didn't even turn around. "Cleaning. This kitchen was full of old junk." I got closer, and I felt the floor move beneath my feet. In the trash were David's recipes, the yellowed index cards where he wrote in his perfect handwriting every dish we invented together. 40 years of recipes, of memories, of love cooked over a low flame. Why did you throw these away?" My voice came out broken. "Oh, Sarah, really?" she said, annoyed. "They're just old papers covered in grease stains. This is useless. Besides, we have the internet now. If you want recipes, just Google them." My hands trembled. I knelt by the trash can and started pulling out the cards. Some were crumpled, others torn. "These recipes, my husband wrote these. Everyone has—" "Well, your husband isn't here anymore," she interrupted coldly. "And you can't live in a museum, Sarah. Life moves on. Old things get thrown out. That's how it works." I stayed there kneeling with the dirty cards in my hands, wanting to cry, wanting to scream, but I did nothing. "Besides," she continued, opening the refrigerator, "since you're here, I want to talk to you about the food. Michael and I are trying to eat healthier. No more heavy grease, no more salt. Those roasts and heavy sauces you make are loaded with calories. We need light food, salads, steamed fish, modern things." Modern things. As if 40 years of comfort food were garbage, as if the love I put into every dish was worthless. I've always cooked this way," I murmured. Michael loved it when he was a kid," she corrected me. "But he's a grown man now, and I'm his wife. I know what's best for him." She went upstairs and left me alone, kneeling by the trash, picking up the pieces of my life. I washed every card carefully. I dried them. I put them in a box in my room. But I didn't say anything to Michael. When he came home that night, I made grilled chicken with salad just like Emily wanted. He ate in silence, looking at his phone. "Is it good, son?" I asked. "Yeah, Mom, it's fine," he answered without looking up. He didn't say delicious. He didn't say thank you. Just, it's fine. And I stayed quiet. That was the first crack. The first moment I should have put my foot down. The first moment I should have said, this is my house. These are my rules, and my memories are not garbage. But I didn't. Because I was afraid. Afraid they would leave. Afraid of being alone again. Afraid that Michael would have to choose between his wife and his mother. And I knew who would win. So I swallowed the pain. I put the cards away, and I started cooking modern things. After that, more cracks appeared. Emily started moving things around. This table doesn't go here. This painting is outdated. These curtains are horrible. Little by little, my house stopped feeling like my house. Michael never said anything. When I tried to talk to him, he would just pat my hand. Mom let her. She's just trying to make the house look better. It's her way of feeling at home. Her home? What about mine? But I kept quiet. I kept giving in. I kept being the good mother-in-law who doesn't cause problems. Until that Thursday. Until she told me to move to the storage room. Sitting there on my bed looking at the walls of my room, I understood something. It wasn't that Thursday that I lost my place in this house. It was the day I picked those recipes out of the trash and said nothing. It was the day I allowed someone to throw away my memories. It was the day I became a guest in my own home, and I accepted it. But that day was over. I got up from the bed. I opened the drawer of my nightstand. There was the box with the recipe cards. I touched them with my fingers. David, I whispered. You asked me to take care of our son, but I forgot to take care of myself. I closed the box. I wasn't going to be quiet anymore. I wasn't going to give in. On Sunday, Emily's parents would arrive with their suitcases thinking my room was waiting for them. But I would be waiting for them too, with a surprise they would never forget. Have you ever let something go, only to regret not confronting it later? Sometimes silence doesn't bring peace. It only brings more pain. The following months were like walking on broken glass. Always careful, always measuring every word, always trying not to bother anyone. I became a stranger in my own home. I stopped cooking my favorite dishes. I stopped inviting my friends over for coffee. I stopped playing music in the mornings. Everything that made me feel alive started to disappear. Because every time I did something, Emily had a complaint. One Saturday morning, my good friend Linda came to visit. We hadn't seen each other in months. We sat in the garden drinking coffee and catching up. We were laughing, remembering old times. For the first time in a long time, I felt like myself. Until Emily came out to the patio. Sarah, could you please keep it down? Michael is resting. He worked all week and needs to sleep. It was 10 in the morning, and we were in the garden far from the bedrooms. I'm sorry, dear, I didn't know. Well, now you know, she snapped. And next time, let me know when you're having visitors. This is my house, too. Linda and I fell silent, embarrassed like scolded children. 30 minutes later, my friend said goodbye. I don't want to cause you any more trouble, she told me at the door. That was the last time Linda came to my house. Then came more rules, more boundaries. Sarah, don't hang the laundry in the front yard. It looks so tacky. There's a clothesline out back. Sarah, don't watch your soap operas in the living room. We have guests and it looks bad. Watch them in your room. Sarah, could you not use so much perfume? The smell gives me a headache. My perfume, the same one I had worn for 30 years, the one David gave me every birthday. I stopped wearing it. And Michael said nothing. One afternoon, while he was watching football in the living room, I dared to speak. Son, I need to talk to you. Go ahead, Mom, he replied, without taking his eyes off the television. It's about Emily. I feel like I can't do anything in my own house anymore. Everything I do bothers her. Michael sighed, that tired sigh I knew so well. Mom, are we doing this again? Michael, Emily is trying to make this house run better, he interrupted. She's trying to modernize it, make it look nice. Why can't you support her instead of complaining? I felt a sharp pain in my chest. I'm not complaining, son. I just want her to respect me. This is my house and... "Mom, stop." His voice was harsh. "I know it's your house. I know you bought it with Dad, but I live here too, and Emily is my wife. She has a right to feel comfortable. But I have a right too." "A right to what? To live in the past? To keep everything the same as when Dad was alive?" He stood up from the couch. "Dad is gone, Mom, and you have to accept it. You have to move on." He went to his room, and I was left alone in the living room, crying in silence. My own son had told me I was living in the past, that I hadn't gotten over his father, as if love is something you get over, as if 40 years of marriage can be forgotten. That night, while I was making dinner, Emily walked into the kitchen. She leaned against the counter and looked at me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Sarah, I heard you spoke with Michael." I didn't answer. I kept chopping vegetables. "Look, I'm going to be honest with you," she continued. "I know this isn't easy for you, but you have to understand something. Michael is my husband now. He's not just your little boy anymore. He has a new family. With me." My hands trembled over the knife. "And I am that family," she went on. "So when you fill his head with complaints about me, all you're doing is putting him in an uncomfortable position. You're making him feel guilty. Is that what you want, to make your son suffer?" I turned to look at her. "I never wanted to make him suffer. I only—" "Then stop complaining," she interrupted. "Stop living in the past. Stop clinging to a man who is gone, and accept that things have changed, or life is going to get very, very difficult for you in this house." She walked out of the kitchen, leaving me with the knife in my hand and a broken heart. That night, lying in my bed, I looked at David's photograph. "What is happening to me, love?" I asked him quietly. "Why did I let them talk to me like that? Why don't I defend myself?" But I knew the answer. I was afraid of losing my son, afraid of being completely alone, afraid that if I demanded respect, they would leave and I would be stuck in this big empty house with no one. So I kept quiet. I kept giving in. I kept erasing myself. I gave up the master bathroom for them. "It's more convenient for us," Emily said. I gave up the covered parking spot for her car. "Yours is old anyway. It doesn't matter if it gets rained on," she said. "I stopped using the living room in the afternoons." "That's when we have visitors, and you're in the way," she told me. I made myself smaller and smaller, until I almost disappeared. But last Thursday, when she told me to move to the storage room, something inside me broke. It wasn't just a room. It was the last part of me that was left in this house. And if I gave in on that, there would be nothing left of Sarah. Just a shadow, an invisible old woman living on charity in her own home. That night I made a decision. On Sunday, Emily's parents would arrive, and she thought I was going to pack my things like a good, obedient old lady. But this old lady was tired of obeying. This old lady was going to remind them who owned this house, and how much it cost to disrespect her. I still wonder how many women are going through the same thing right now, living in their own homes as if they were visitors. What do you think? Where is the line between being tolerant and letting yourself be trampled? Friday morning, 2 days before Emily's parents were set to arrive, I woke up with a strange clarity, as if I had been asleep for years and was finally opening my eyes. I got up early. Michael had already left for work. Emily was still asleep. The house was silent, and in that silence, I started to see things I didn't want to see before. I went down to the kitchen to make coffee. Emily's phone was on the counter. She had forgotten it there last night. The screen lit up with a notification. I didn't mean to look, but what I saw froze my blood. It was a text from her mother. It said, "Did you tell the old woman to give us the room yet? If she doesn't agree, threaten her that Michael will leave with you. That fool will do anything to not be left alone." I stood there paralyzed, staring at that screen. That fool, that's what she called me behind my back. And the worst part was that she was right. I had done anything to not be left alone, but not anymore. I left the phone exactly where it was and went up to my room. I locked the door, and I cried. I cried with rage, with shame, with pain. How had I let it get this far? An hour later, I heard footsteps in the hall. Emily was awake. I heard her voice on the phone. "Yes, Mom, everything is going according to plan. You move in on Sunday. I already told her to pack her things. Oh, Mom, if you only knew how easy she is to handle. You just have to make her feel guilty, and she does whatever you want. Michael doesn't even notice. He's so busy working he doesn't pay attention." My heart was beating so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. How easy she is to handle. That's what I was to her, a stupid old fool, easy to manipulate. I waited for her to go downstairs. Then I left my room. I needed air. I needed to think. I went to the garden, to the rose bushes David planted. I sat on the stone bench where we used to sit together every afternoon, and there among the roses I saw something I hadn't noticed before. Several of the plants were dry, dead, as if someone had poured something on them. I got closer. The smell was unmistakable. Bleach. Emily had killed David's rose bushes with bleach. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't neglect. It was intentional. She wanted to erase every trace of him, everything that connected me to my previous life. I knelt beside the dead plants and touched the dry leaves. "I'm sorry, my love," I whispered. "I let them kill your roses. I let them kill everything we were. But not anymore." That afternoon, when Michael came home from work, he was tired as always. Emily greeted him with a kiss and poured him a glass of wine. "Honey, I have to step out for a minute," she told him. "I'm going to buy a few things for when my parents get here. I'll be back in an hour." She left, and for the first time in a long time, Michael and I were alone. I sat across from him in the living room. "Son, I need to talk to you. It's important." "Mom, I'm tired. Can it wait?" "No, Michael, it can't wait." Something in my tone made him look up. "What's wrong?" "This is my house," I said with a firmness I hadn't used in years. "The house your father and I bought with our hard work. The house where we raised you. And I'm not going to let myself be treated like a servant in my own home." Michael sighed. "Mom, we already talked about this." "No, Michael. You talked." I stayed quiet. "But now I'm going to talk." My voice was shaking, but I didn't stop. "Emily doesn't respect me. She insults me. She controls me. She has taken everything from me. My kitchen, my friends, my perfume, my space. And now she wants to take my room." "Mom, it's just a room." "It's my room." My voice cracked. "It's the room where I slept with your father for 40 years, where he died in my arms, where I still feel like he's with me. And she wants to give it to her parents, as if I don't matter, as if my memories are worthless." Michael was silent. "Son, your father taught you to be respectful, to be a good man." "Where did that man go?" "Mom, I do respect you." "Do you respect me?" I interrupted. "Do you respect someone you let live like a stranger in her own house? Do you respect someone who has to ask permission to invite her friends over? Do you respect someone who is being told to move to the storage room so others can be comfortable?" I saw something in his eyes. A flicker, as if for just a moment he saw the truth. But then we heard the door. Emily was back. "What are you two talking about?" she asked with that fake smile. Michael stood up. "Nothing. Mom was just... nothing important." And he went up to his room. Emily looked at me, and in her eyes I saw something that scared me. It wasn't anger. It was certainty. The certainty of someone who knows they've already won. "Sarah, I hope you're all packed for Sunday," she said calmly. "My parents are arriving early, 10 a.m. I want the room to be ready." "It will be ready," I replied, and I meant it. The room would be ready, just not for her parents. That night I called my lawyer, Mr. Hernandez, an old friend of David's. "Sarah, what do you need?" he asked with concern. "I need you to come to my house on Sunday at 10 a.m. and bring the deed to my house, and a contract." "A contract? What kind of contract?" I smiled. For the first time in a long time, I truly smiled. "A rental agreement. We're going to put a price on disrespect. Sometimes the signs are all there, but we don't want to see them. Have you ever discovered something that completely changed how you see someone? Tell me. Saturday dawned gray, as if the sky knew what was coming. I got up early and stayed in my room. I didn't want to see Emily. I didn't want to pretend anymore. I needed to save my strength for the next day. I heard when Michael left to play soccer with his friends like he did every Saturday, and then the house was left with just Emily and me. I was sitting on my bed looking at the empty boxes I had taken out of the closet. Emily thought I would use them to pack my things, but I had other plans. Then I heard voices downstairs. Emily was on the phone and she wasn't bothering to lower her voice. "Yes, Dad, tomorrow. It's all arranged. No, the old woman isn't going to do anything. She's too much of a coward. I'm telling you, Michael is completely on my side. I have him eating out of the palm of my hand." I moved closer to my bedroom door. I left it cracked open so I could hear better. "If I feel guilty," she laughed. "Why, it's her house. So what? She already lived her life. She had her time. Now it's our turn. Besides, Dad, think about it. This house is worth a lot of money. If we can make her feel so uncomfortable that she leaves for a nursing home or something, Michael can sell it, and we get everything." I felt the floor move beneath my feet. We get everything. That was the plan. It wasn't just about taking my room. It was about taking my house. It was about pushing me out until I left, or until I died. "Of course Michael doesn't know," Emily continued. "He thinks I love his mom, that I just want to modernize the house. He's so naive. But I like him that way. A man who doesn't ask questions is easy to handle. My son, my Michael, the good man his father and I raised. She had him fooled, completely fooled. Yes, Dad. Tomorrow at 10, bring everything. Clothes, furniture, whatever you want. This is going to be your house now. And the old woman, well, if she doesn't like the storage room, there are some very nice nursing homes around here. Michael can pay for one." She hung up, and I heard her footsteps coming up the stairs. I shut my door quickly. My heart was pounding like a drum. I sat on the bed, shaking. This wasn't just disrespect. It wasn't just abuse. It was a plan, coldly calculated, to take my house, my life. And Michael, my poor Michael, had no idea. I looked at David's photograph on my nightstand. His wise eyes looked back at me. "Do you see my love?" I whispered. "Do you see what I let into our home? Do you see what I've let them turn our son into?" But then in the midst of the pain, I felt something else. Clarity. Absolute moral clarity. This wasn't just about me. It was about Michael, too. About the man who was losing his dignity without even knowing it. About the son who was betraying the values his father taught him. If I didn't do something, Emily wouldn't just destroy me. She would destroy Michael, too. I stood up. I opened the drawer where I kept David's recipe cards. I took them all out. I laid them on the bed. Each one was a lesson, a memory, a moment of love. Thursday pot roast, because love is cooked slowly. Christmas tamales, made with the hands of the whole family. Sunday morning sweetbread, to share with those you love. David didn't just teach me to cook. He taught me that food was love, that family was respect, that a home is built on values, not deceit, and I had allowed all of that to be lost. But tomorrow I would get it back. That afternoon, while Emily was in her room getting things ready for her parents, I went out to the garden, to the dead rose bushes. I knelt beside them and touched the dry, brittle leaves. "Forgive me for not protecting you," I told them quietly. "Forgive me for letting them kill you." But then I saw something. Among the dead plants there was a new shoot, small, green, fighting its way out of the dirt, a rose bush that refused to die. That was me. A woman they had tried to dry out, a woman they had tried to kill little by little, but I still had life inside me. I stood up, I brushed the dirt from my knees, and I went back into the house with my head held high. That night, Michael came home late. He was tired from soccer. Emily served him dinner while talking nonstop about how excited she was for her parents to arrive. You'll see, honey. My mom is an amazing cook, and my dad is so funny. You're going to love them." Michael just nodded, not paying much attention. "Did you pack, Mom?" he asked me suddenly. Silence filled the kitchen. "Yes, son," I answered calmly. "Everything is ready for tomorrow." Emily smiled, a smile of victory. "That's good, Sarah. I'm glad you're taking this with maturity." Maturity? If only she knew. I went to my room early. I needed to rest. Tomorrow was going to be a long day. Before getting into bed, I held David's photograph in my hands. "Tomorrow, my love," I told him. "I'm going to do what I should have done a long time ago. I'm going to defend our house. I'm going to defend our son. And I'm going to teach them that kindness is not weakness." I kissed the photograph and put it back in its place. Tomorrow at 10 a.m., Emily's parents would arrive with their suitcases, but I would be waiting for them, with Mr. Hernandez by my side, with the deed to my house in my hand, and with a contract that would teach them that my generosity always had a price they were never willing to pay. Respect. I still wonder if I did the right thing. What about you? What would you have done in my place? Sometimes defending what's yours looks like selfishness, but is it really? Sunday dawned with a brilliant sun. Ironic. As if the universe didn't know that this was the day everything would change. I got up at 6 in the morning. I showered slowly. I put on my best dress, the navy blue one David gave me for our 30th anniversary. I did my hair carefully. I put on makeup. I was not going to face this like a defeated old woman. I was going to face it as the owner of this house. At 8 o'clock, I went down to the living room. Michael was already awake, drinking coffee in the kitchen. He looked at me surprised. "Mom, you look great. Are you going out?" "No, son. I'm staying right here. We have important visitors coming today." Emily appeared in the kitchen, still in her pajamas. She looked me up and down with contempt. "Visitors? What visitors?" "My parents are coming today, Sarah. This isn't a day for your friends." I smiled, a calm smile. "I know, Emily. That's why I got dressed up." She frowned, confused, but she didn't say anything else. At 9:30, the doorbell rang. It was Mr. Hernandez. I had known him for 30 years. He was the lawyer who helped David and me when we bought this house. He was a man of 68 with white hair and a presence that commanded respect. "Good morning, Sarah," he said with a warm smile. "Good morning, Mr. Hernandez. Thank you for coming." "That's what I'm here for. Did you bring what I asked?" He nodded and took out a leather briefcase. Inside were the documents, the deed to the house in my name and the contract we had prepared. We sat in the living room on the main sofa. Mr. Hernandez opened his briefcase and placed the papers on the coffee table. Michael came out of the kitchen when he heard voices. "Mom, who is this?" "Michael, I'd like you to meet Mr. Hernandez. He was a friend of your father's. He was our lawyer when we bought this house." Michael turned pale. "A lawyer? Why is a lawyer here?" Before I could answer, Emily came running down the stairs. She had changed. She was wearing a new dress and had makeup on. "What is going on here?" she asked, her voice high-pitched. "Who is this man?" "I am Mr. Arturo Hernandez, a public notary," he replied in a professional voice, "and I am here representing the legal owner of this property, Mrs. Sarah Martinez." The silence was absolute. Emily looked at me, her eyes filled with fury. "Owner, what is going on?" At that exact moment, the doorbell rang. It was 10 o'clock sharp. "That must be your parents," I said calmly. "Go ahead, Michael. Open the door." My son, completely confused, went to open it. 2 people walked in. Emily's father was a short man in his 60s with a thick mustache and a prominent belly. Her mother was a thin woman with bleach blonde hair and too much makeup. They were carrying suitcases. Lots of suitcases. "Mom, Dad." Emily ran to hug them. "Welcome. Come in. Come in. This is your home now. This is your home now." Her parents entered smiling, looking at everything with evaluating eyes as if they already owned the place. "What a beautiful house," said Emily's mother. "Much better than you told us, honey." "And where's our room?" asked the father, dropping a heavy suitcase on the floor. "I want to rest. It was a long trip." "It's upstairs, Dad. The master bedroom, the biggest one with the balcony and private bath." Michael was still standing by the entrance, paralyzed, understanding nothing. "Excuse me," I said, standing up from the sofa. "I believe there has been a confusion." Everyone turned to look at me. "Confusion?" asked Emily's mother with disdain. "What confusion? Emily told us we were staying in the master bedroom." "That's right," I confirmed. "Emily told you that, but Emily forgot one small detail." I walked to the center of the living room. Mr. Hernandez stood up beside me. "This house is mine," I said, my voice clear and firm. "In my name. I am the sole owner. My son Michael and his wife Emily live here out of my generosity, as guests in my home." Emily's father let out a nervous laugh. "So what, we're family. Families help each other." "You're right," I replied. "Families help each other, but they also respect each other. And you, sir and madam, are in my house without my permission." "Sarah, what are you doing?" Michael finally spoke. "It's Emily's parents. Let them in. They are coming in, son. But first, we are going to clear things up." I walked to the coffee table and picked up one of the documents. "Mr. Hernandez and I have prepared a contract, a rental agreement for the use of the master suite." "A rental agreement?" Emily shrieked. "You're going to charge us rent." "Not you," I corrected her. "Your parents. They are the ones who will be occupying the room, are they not?" Mr. Hernandez cleared his throat and read from the document. "Rental agreement for the exclusive use of the master suite, which includes a 270-square-foot bedroom full private bath balcony with garden view walk-in closet and controlled access. Monthly rent $8,200, paid in advance on the first of each month. Security deposit $16,400. The silence was deafening. $8,200, Emily's father shouted. "Are you insane?" "I am not insane," I replied calmly. "That is the market price for a room of that size in this part of the city. Mr. Hernandez did the research. In fact, I'm charging a little less than the average." "But we're family," Emily's mother shouted. "You don't charge family." "You're right," I said, looking her straight in the eye. "You don't charge family, but family has respect. Family asks for permission. Family doesn't show up and demand someone else's room as if it were a hotel." Emily was red with fury. "This is ridiculous. Michael, say something." My son was staring at me with wide eyes, still processing everything. "Mom, are you serious?" "Very serious, son." I picked up another document. "Here is the deed of ownership in my name, as it has been since your father and I bought this house 40 years ago. I paid every mortgage payment. I paid for every repair. I paid the taxes. This house is mine." Mr. Hernandez intervened. "Mr. Michael and Mrs. Emily reside here as a courtesy of Mrs. Sarah. They do not pay rent. They do not pay utilities. They do not pay for food. They live entirely on the generosity of the homeowner." "He is my son," I exploded for the first time. "Of course he lives here without paying. But that does not give him or his wife or anyone else the right to disrespect me in my own home." I turned to Emily's parents. "You came here thinking you could just take my room, the room where I slept for 40 years with my husband, where he died in my arms. And you know what, you can stay." I saw a glimmer of hope in their eyes. "But you are going to pay $8,200 every month, or you leave." Emily's father's shoulders slumped. We don't have that kind of money. That's why we lost our house." "I know," I said. "That's why Emily planned to bring you here, to live for free, at my expense, taking my room, sending me to the storage room, as if I were the maid in my own house." Emily walked toward me, shaking with rage. "You are a selfish, bitter old woman. You have this entire house. What does it cost you to give one room to my parents?" "What does it cost me?" My voice broke. "It costs me my dignity. It costs me my memories. It costs me the last space where I still feel my husband close to me." Tears started to roll down my cheeks, but I didn't stop them. "You called me old. You called me a fool. You told me to get over my husband's death as if it were easy. You killed his rose bushes with bleach. You threw his recipes in the trash. You ran off my friends. You forbade me from wearing my perfume. You made me invisible in my own house. My voice rose. And still I kept quiet. I kept giving in. I kept giving you everything. Why? Because I loved you. Because I thought if I was good, if I was generous, if I didn't cause problems, you would love me. You would respect me. I looked at Michael, my heart broken. But I was wrong, son. You didn't respect me. You despised me. You saw my kindness as weakness, and my silence as permission to trample me. Michael had tears in his eyes. Mom, I didn't know. Of course you didn't know, Emily interrupted with venom. Because she's exaggerating everything. She's a manipulator. She's trying to turn you against me. I walked to the living room cabinet and took out my phone. I touched the screen. Suddenly, Emily's voice filled the speaker. It was the recording of her phone call from the day before. If I feel guilty, why, it's her house. So what? She already lived her life. She had her time. Now it's our turn. Michael was frozen solid. This house is worth a lot of money. If we can make her feel so uncomfortable that she leaves for a nursing home or something, Michael can sell it. And we get everything. My son's eyes filled with horror. Of course Michael doesn't know. He thinks I love his mom. He's so naive. But I like him that way. A man who doesn't ask questions is easy to handle. I turned off the phone. The silence was crushing. Michael, I can explain. Emily turned pale, but Michael held up his hand. No. His voice was broken. Don't say anything. He turned to me. Mom, forgive me. Forgive me for being so blind, for not listening to you, for letting them treat you like this. Tears streamed down his face. Dad taught me to be respectful, to stand up for what's right, and I let them trample my own mother, in her own house. He covered his face with his hands and wept. Emily was in shock. Her parents, ashamed, grabbed their suitcases. We'll just go, her father muttered. That would be best, I said, my voice soft but firm. Emily's parents walked out of the house dragging their suitcases, without looking back. Emily shot me a look full of hatred. This isn't over, she hissed. You are going to pay for this. No, Emily, I said with a calm I didn't feel. The one who is going to pay is you. The universe always collects its debts, and you have a very large debt with respect to truth and decency. She stormed up the stairs and locked herself in her room. Michael walked over to me. He hugged me. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry. I hugged him back. My son. My boy. Lost in the lies of someone who didn't truly love him. I know, son. I know. Mr. Hernandez packed up his documents. Sarah, if you need anything else, I'm here. That recording is more than enough evidence of her intentions. This house is protected. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Thank you for everything. He said his goodbyes and left. I was left alone with Michael in the living room. My son was broken. My dignity was recovered. But my heart was still bleeding, because I knew this was just the beginning. I had won the battle. But the war had just begun. Have you ever had to choose between peace and your dignity? Sometimes standing up for what's right hurts more than staying quiet. But silence kills you from the inside. The days after that Sunday were strange, like living in a house where a bomb had just exploded. Everything was still standing, but the air smelled like destruction. Emily didn't speak to me. She would pass by me as if I were invisible, but now her silence didn't hurt me. On the contrary, it was a relief. Michael didn't talk much either. I'd see him in the mornings before he left for work with dark circles under his eyes. He wasn't sleeping well. He was carrying the weight of discovering who the woman he married really was. On Monday night, 3 days after the confrontation, Michael knocked on my bedroom door. "Mom, can I come in?" "Of course, son." He walked in slowly. He sat on the edge of my bed. He had his hands clasped between his knees, like when he was a boy and came to confess something. "I don't know what to do," he said in a broken voice. "I don't know how I didn't see all this before." I sat down next to him. "Love makes us blind, son. We want to believe people are who we imagine them to be, not who they really are. But Dad always said to watch actions, not words. And I only saw what I wanted to see." He put his head on my shoulder. "My big son, my lost boy." "What are you going to do?" I asked gently. "I don't know. I talked to her yesterday. I asked her why. Why did she lie? Why did she plan all that? Why did she treat you like that?" "And what did she say?" "That you exaggerated everything, that the recording was taken out of context, that you were manipulating me to turn me against her." He took a deep breath. "But I heard that recording, Mom. Her words, her tone. There was nothing out of context." He wiped his tears on the back of his hand. "She told me that if I don't support her, if I don't ask you to apologize to her parents, she's leaving." My heart sank. "And what did you tell her?" "I told her that you have nothing to apologize for, that this is your house, that you have always been generous with us, that she was the one who was disrespectful." He closed his eyes. "And then she told me something that chilled my blood. She said, 'I knew you would choose your mommy. Men like you never grow up. You'll always be Mama's boys.'" I stayed quiet. That was classic manipulation, making him feel weak for doing the right thing. "Son, look at me." I took his face in my hands. "Defending your mother from abuse doesn't make you weak. It makes you a man of honor. Your father would be proud of you." Michael cried. He cried in a way I hadn't seen him cry since David's funeral. "I loved her, Mom. I really loved her. Or at least, I loved the person I thought she was." "I know, son, and that hurts. It hurts to discover the person we loved never really existed." We sat in silence for a long time. "What do you want to do?" I finally asked. I want to ask her to leave, but I'm scared of being alone, scared of having wasted 3 years of my life, scared of what people will say." I hugged him tight. "Fear is normal, Michael. But staying with someone who doesn't respect you, who manipulates you, who despises your family, that isn't love. That's a prison." He nodded slowly. "Give me time, Mom. I need to think this through. You have all the time in the world, son. This is your house. It always will be." He stood up and gave me a kiss on the forehead. "Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for defending yourself, even when I didn't defend you." He left my room, and I was left alone with my thoughts. I couldn't sleep that night. I got up and went down to the kitchen to make myself some chamomile tea. While I was waiting for the water to boil, I heard footsteps on the stairs. It was Emily. She stopped when she saw me. For a moment, I thought she would turn around, but she didn't. She came into the kitchen. "Sarah," she said without the misses, "I need to talk to you." "Go ahead." She sat on one of the bar stools. She looked tired. Dark circles, no makeup, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She started, but stopped. "I'm not a bad person." I didn't respond. I just waited. "My parents, they lost everything. My dad's business went bankrupt. They lost their house. They're living in a horrible tiny apartment. With leaks." Her voice broke. "I just wanted to help them, give them a decent place to live. That's not bad, is it?" "No," I answered calmly. "Wanting to help your parents isn't bad. But the way you tried to do it, that was." "How was I supposed to do it?" she asked in frustration. "Ask your permission. Beg you. You have this huge house, empty rooms. Why not share?" "Because you didn't ask Emily. You demanded. You planned to take my room without consulting me. You sent me to the storage room as if I were the help. You killed my husband's roses. You threw away his recipes. You ran off my friends. You insulted me. You despised me. My voice stayed firm. And then when you thought I wasn't listening, you said you wanted to push me into a nursing home to get my house. She looked down. I was angry. I didn't mean it. Emily, you can lie to yourself, but don't lie to me. You did mean it, and if I had been weaker, if I had given in, if I had gone to that storage room, what would your next step have been? How long before you started saying I was a burden, that I was too old to live alone, that I needed a home? She stayed silent because she knew I was right. I am not your enemy, Emily. I never was. I opened the doors of my home to you. I treated you like a daughter, but you saw me as an obstacle, as something to be removed from the path. Tears rolled down her cheeks. I don't know why I did all that, she whispered. I don't know why I became like that. And in that moment, I saw her, not the cruel, manipulative woman, but the scared girl, the desperate daughter who wanted to save her parents and didn't know how. I got up and took 2 mugs from the cabinet. I poured tea for both of us. I placed 1 mug in front of her. We all make mistakes, Emily, but what defines us isn't the mistakes. It's what we do after. She held the mug in her trembling hands. What can I do? I've ruined everything. Michael hates me. You hate me. My parents are ashamed. I don't hate you, I said honestly. I am disappointed. I am hurt, but I don't hate you. And Michael is processing. He's discovering that the woman he married isn't who he thought. That hurts. A lot. She took a sip of tea. He's going to leave me, isn't he? I didn't lie. I don't know, Emily. That's his decision. But if he does, it will be because you broke his trust, not because I manipulated him. She nodded slowly. What happens now? Now, I said calmly, you have to decide what kind of woman you want to be, whether you want to keep blaming others for your actions, or if you want to take responsibility and change. She wiped her tears. I didn't know I was such a bad person. You're not bad, Emily. You did bad things. There's a difference. But you have to own it. No excuses, no justifications. She was silent for a long time. I'm sorry, she finally whispered. I'm sorry for everything I did. I'm sorry for how I treated you. I'm sorry for killing the roses. I'm sorry for throwing away the recipes. I'm sorry I wasn't the daughter-in-law you deserved. They weren't the perfect words, but they were honest. Thank you for saying that, I replied. But words are easy. Actions are what's hard. She nodded. That night, after Emily went up to her room, I stayed alone in the kitchen, thinking. I had won. I had defended my house, my dignity, my space. But I didn't feel triumphant. I felt peace, a strange peace, like after a storm ends and the air smells like wet earth. I walked out to the garden, to the roses, to the green shoot that was still growing among the dead plants. I touched it gently. I did my part, my love, I told David quietly. I defended our house. I defended our son. Now I'll let the universe do its work. Because I understood something in that moment. I didn't need to punish Emily. I didn't need revenge. Life itself would teach her, would collect the debt, would show her that respect isn't optional, that lies have short legs, that you reap what you sow. I just needed to stand firm, maintain my boundaries, and trust that justice, true justice, always arrives. In its own time, in its own way. I still wonder if I did the right thing. What about you? What would you have done in my place? Sometimes forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It means letting go of the weight of resentment. 3 weeks passed since that night in the kitchen. 3 weeks in which the house breathed differently, as if it could finally exhale after holding its breath for years. Michael and Emily were still sleeping in the same room, but they weren't the same. He left early for work and came back late. She spent her days locked away looking at her phone, avoiding my gaze. Until one Wednesday afternoon, Michael came home earlier than usual. He had a serious, determined expression. "Mom, Can we talk, all three of us?" Emily came down from her room. She looked pale, as if she already knew what was coming. We sat in the living room, the same place where everything had exploded 3 weeks earlier. Michael took a deep breath. "I've been doing a lot of thinking." He began looking at his hands. "And I've come to a conclusion." Emily bit her lip. "Emily, I want you to leave." She closed her eyes. The tears started to fall. "Michael, please." "Let me finish." His voice was firm, but not cruel. "I've tried. I really have. But every time I look at you, I remember that recording. I remember how you talked about my mom, how you called her a fool, how you planned to get her out of her own house." He wiped away a tear that rolled down his cheek. "And I can't be with someone who was capable of doing that, who was capable of lying to me, of manipulating me, of making me believe my mom was the problem, when the problem was you." "But I apologized," Emily sobbed. "I said I was sorry." "I know, and I believe a part of you is, but an apology doesn't erase what happened. It doesn't erase who you were for 3 years. It doesn't erase the damage you caused." Michael stood up and walked to the window. "My dad taught me that a man is measured by how he treats those he loves. And I allowed you to mistreat my mother. I became someone my father wouldn't recognize, and that is killing me inside." He turned to look at her. "I need to heal. I need to get back the man I was, and I can't do it with you, because every time I see you, I remember who I became when I was with you." Emily cried in silence, but she didn't beg. She didn't throw herself on the floor. She didn't make a scene. She just nodded. When do you want me to leave?" "This weekend. I'll help you with the move. I'll give you money to rent an apartment for the first few months. I'm not going to leave you on the street, but you can't stay here." She stood up. She walked over to me. "Sarah, I know there are no words to fix what I did, but I want you to know that I'm sorry. I am truly sorry." I looked her in the eyes, and I saw something I hadn't seen before. Genuine regret. Not the regret of someone who got caught, but the regret of someone who finally understands the damage they caused. "I believe you, Emily," I said gently, "and I hope you learn from this. I hope that the next time you have a home, you take care of it. That the next time someone gives you their trust, you value it." She nodded and went up to her room. Michael came over and hugged me. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you for not giving up, for showing me what I didn't want to see." I held him tight. My son, my boy, who was finally finding his way back. Saturday morning, a moving truck arrived at the house. It wasn't big, just enough for Emily's things. I was in the kitchen making coffee. I heard the footsteps, the boxes being carried, a life being packed up. Emily came down with her last suitcase. She stopped at the kitchen entrance. "Goodbye, Sarah." "Goodbye, Emily. Take care." She nodded and walked out. Michael went with her. He helped her arrange her things in the truck. They spoke for a moment. She cried. He hugged her. And then she got in the truck and left. My son came back into the house. His shoulders slumped. He closed the door. He leaned against it. And finally he cried. He cried for the lost marriage, for the wasted years, for the woman he loved who never really existed. I hugged him. I let him cry, because sometimes the pain needs to come out. The months passed. The house became mine again. Michael and I found a new rhythm. We cooked together. We watched movies. We talked about David. We laughed. We healed. My friends came back. Linda was the first. She arrived with a cake and a smile. "Can I come over now without getting kicked out?" she joked. "You were always welcome," I replied, hugging her. I put David's photos back up in the living room. I started wearing my perfume again. I watered the plants in the morning again. I cooked my pot roast on Thursdays again. I became myself again. One afternoon, 6 months after Emily left, Michael came home with news. "Mom, I ran into Emily today, at the supermarket." I stood still. "And how is she?" "Not good." He sighed. "She was alone. She looked tired. She told me her parents moved to a different state to live with a relative, that she's living in a small apartment, that she's working in a call center because she can't find a better job. He sat down at the kitchen table. She asked about you, if you were okay, if you had ever said anything about her. And what did you tell her? I told her the truth, that you're doing well, that you got your house back, your peace, and that you never speak ill of her, that you only said you hoped she would learn from her mistakes. Michael fidgeted with his coffee mug. She started crying right there, in the middle of the supermarket aisle. She told me she had lost everything, her marriage, her family, her dignity, that she wakes up every night remembering the things she did to you, that she can't forgive herself. I felt a pang in my chest, not of satisfaction, of sadness. She told me something else, Michael continued. She said, your mom was right. Life always collects its debts, and I'm paying every single day. I stayed silent. You know what's the saddest part, Mom? Michael looked at me with watery eyes. That all of this could have been avoided. If she had just asked with respect, if she had valued what she had, if she had treated you like the family you were. I nodded. But the hardest lessons are the ones that transform us the most, son. Emily is paying the price for her choices, not because I punished her, but because those are the natural consequences of losing trust, respect, and love. That night I went out to the garden. The rose bushes had bloomed again. The shoot I had seen months ago was now a full bush covered in white roses. I sat on the stone bench and looked at the stars. Do you see, my love? I told David. I didn't have to do anything. Life itself taught her. Like you always said, there's no need to seek revenge. Life is wise, and it always puts everyone in their place. A gentle breeze stirred the roses, and I felt as I had so many times before that David was there, smiling, proud, because I understood something that night. Justice isn't revenge. It isn't watching someone else suffer and celebrating. Justice is getting your peace back. It's setting boundaries. It's defending your dignity and trusting that the universe will always balance the scales. Emily called me crazy when I put that contract on the table. She called me selfish, bitter, but 6 months later, based on what Michael told me when he saw her in that supermarket, I don't see a triumphant woman. I see the emptiness in her eyes, the loneliness she brought upon herself, the regret that haunts her every night. I didn't feel joy. I felt sad for her, because life always collects its debts, and she is paying hers. Life has a strange way of teaching us. Sometimes we don't need to do anything. Just stand firm and let the universe do its work. Do you believe in karmic justice? It's been a year since that Sunday morning. A year since I put that contract on the table and took back my dignity. My name is Sarah. I am 65 years old. And today, sitting in the garden of my house, looking at the rose bushes that have bloomed again, I can say something I couldn't say a year ago. I am at peace. It wasn't easy to get here. There were sleepless nights, days of doubt, moments when I wondered if I had been too harsh, if I should have given in, if I should have just stayed quiet one more time. But now I understand something I didn't see before. Silence doesn't bring peace. Silence brings death. The death of the spirit, the death of dignity, the death of who you really are. And I had been dying little by little. Every time I stayed quiet about disrespect, every time I accepted an insult, every time I made myself small so others could feel big. But that Sunday when I saw Emily's parents arrive with their suitcases thinking my room was waiting for them, something woke up inside me. It wasn't rage, it wasn't revenge, it was self-respect. The self-respect I had forgotten since David died, the self-respect I had buried under layers and layers of fear of being alone. This morning I woke up early, as always, but now I enjoy my mornings. I play music while I make coffee. I water my plants without rushing. I sit in the garden and watch the sunrise. Michael is better, much better. 3 months ago he met someone. Her name is Patricia. She's an elementary school teacher. She has a sweet smile and honest eyes. He brought her home 2 weeks ago. Mom, I want you to meet someone special, Michael told me nervously. Patricia walked in with a bouquet of sunflowers, not roses, sunflowers. Sarah, it's an honor to meet you. Michael has told me so much about you, about how strong you are, how brave." I was moved to tears. "The honor is mine, Patricia. Welcome to this home." That afternoon, while we were cooking together in the kitchen, Patricia told me something I'll never forget. "Sarah, when Michael told me what happened with his ex-wife, I thought you must be a tough, inflexible woman. But now that I know you, I understand. It wasn't toughness. It was survival." I stood still, the knife in my hand. "A woman who defends her home, her dignity, and her heart isn't tough," she continued. "She's wise. And I hope one day to have that same wisdom." I hugged her, because in that moment I knew my son had found someone different, someone who understood the value of respect. Yesterday, Michael and Patricia sat down with me in the living room. "Mom, we want to talk to you about something important," Michael began. My heart sped up. "Patricia and I are thinking about getting married. Soon. And we want to ask your permission for something." "Permission?" I asked, confused. Patricia took my hand. "We would like to live here with you, Sarah, but only if you agree, and only under your rules. This is your house, and we want to respect it as it deserves." My eyes filled with tears. "But we want you to know something," Michael continued. "If at any moment you feel uncomfortable, if you need your space, if you'd rather we find our own place, you just have to say the word. No guilt, no fear, because you are the priority, always." I cried. I cried with joy, with relief, with gratitude. "Thank you, son. Thank you for asking. Thank you for respecting me." And in that moment, I understood something beautiful. Not all daughters-in-law are the same. Not all families are the same. I had allowed one bad experience to make me believe that defending my boundaries meant being alone. But I was wrong. Defending my boundaries opened the door to true relationships, to people who deserved to be in my life, to genuine respect. A week ago, I was at the market buying vegetables for my Thursday pot roast. Yes, I started making pot roast on Thursdays again. It's my way of keeping David close, and I saw her. Emily was in the dairy aisle, alone, with a small basket. She looked different, thinner. Her hair was shorter, simple clothes. Our eyes met. For a moment, I thought she would turn away, but she didn't. She approached me slowly. "Sarah." "Emily." We stood in silence. The market buzzed around us, but we were in a bubble. How are you?" she asked softly. "I'm well, very well. And you?" She looked down. "Surviving, working a lot, trying to be a better person." I nodded. "I heard Michael is getting married," she said with a sad smile. "I'm happy for him, I really am. He deserves to be happy." "Yes, he does." "Sarah, her voice broke. "I think about you every day, about what I did to you, about how I treated you, and I am so ashamed." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I've been going to therapy. I'm working on myself, trying to understand why I was so cruel, why I thought it was okay to treat someone like that." "I'm glad to hear that, Emily." Will you ever be able to forgive me?" I took a deep breath. "I already forgave you, Emily, months ago. Because holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And I've already wasted too much of my life on bitterness." She sobbed. "But forgiving doesn't mean forgetting," I continued. "It doesn't mean we'll be family again. It doesn't mean I trust you. It means I wish you well. I hope you learn. I hope you never ever treat anyone the way you treated me." "I never will," she whispered. "Never. This lesson cost me everything, but I learned it." We said goodbye. She went down one aisle, I went down another. And when I left the market, my bags full of ingredients for the pot roast, I felt something strange. Lightness. As if I had finally set down a weight I had been carrying for a year. That afternoon, while I was cooking, Michael came into the kitchen. He stood in the doorway, just watching me. "What is it, son?" "Nothing, Mom. I was just watching you. And I was thinking about how lucky I am to be your son." My eyes filled with tears. "Dad always said you were the strongest woman he'd ever known. I didn't understand it. I thought strong meant being big, tough, unbreakable." He walked over and hugged me. "But now I get it. Strong is falling and getting back up. It's being silent for years and finally finding your voice. It's forgiving without being a fool. It's setting boundaries without being cruel." I held him tight. "Your father would be so proud of you, Michael, of the man you've become. Only because you showed me the way, Mom. When you put that contract on the table, you didn't just defend yourself, you defended me too. You opened my eyes." That night after dinner, I went out to the garden. The rose bushes were in full bloom, white, pure, beautiful. I sat on the stone bench and looked at the stars. "We did it, my love," I told David. "We got our house back, we got our son back, and we found peace." I closed my eyes and felt the breeze, and in that breeze, I felt his presence, his voice, his words. "I always knew you were stronger than you thought. You just needed to remember." I smiled, because it was true. I had forgotten who I was. The woman who worked 40 years alongside her husband to buy this house, the woman who raised a son with values, the woman who survived the death of the love of her life and kept going. I had forgotten Sarah, but that Sunday when I put that contract on the table, Sarah came back. And this time she was here to stay. Today, 1 year later, I can look back and say something with certainty. I have no regrets. I don't regret saying enough. I don't regret setting boundaries. I don't regret defending my dignity. Because in the process, I didn't just save my house, I saved myself. And if my story can help just one woman to open her eyes, to realize she doesn't have to be quiet, that she doesn't have to make herself small, that she doesn't have to put up with abuse just for fear of being alone, if my story can help even one woman find her voice, then it will all have been worth it. Because at the end of the day, life teaches us one simple but powerful truth. You cannot give what you do not have. You cannot give respect if you don't respect yourself. You cannot give love if you don't love yourself first. You cannot give dignity if you have lost your own, and I had lost mine, little by little, day by day, until I almost disappeared. But I got it back. And with it, I got my life back. So if you are listening to this story and you feel a connection, if you are living in your own house feeling like a guest, if there is someone in your life who makes you feel small, invisible, insignificant, I want you to know something. You are worthy. Your voice matters. Your dignity is non-negotiable. And it is okay to set boundaries. It is okay to say no. It is okay to defend your space, your peace, your heart. It is not selfishness. It is self-respect. And self-respect is the first step toward a true life. I get up from the bench, I brush the roses one last time, and I go back into my house, my home, the place where finally, after so much time, I feel like myself again. Sarah, 65 years old, widow, mother, woman, and for the first time in a long time, free. Thank you for listening to the end. If this story touched your heart, subscribe and hit the bell to hear more stories of women who transformed their pain into wisdom. Every day, a woman, a life lesson. Share this story with someone you love. Sometimes a story like this can change someone's entire day. God bless you, and until next time.